Hey everybody, KC here. So I want to tell you a little bit more about the De-Invest to Reinvest Leadership Summit that Thom and his team put on earlier this week. Yesterday I talked about a session that I did with Jim Donald. Today I want to talk about a presentation that was made by Thom Blischock of the Dialogic group. And it was a really interesting presentation, and what he was focusing on is the changes that companies need to make as they prepare for the inevitability of, we're going to come out of the pandemic. We're going to recover from the COVID-19 coronavirus and the challenges that it has created for every organization. But the thing is, one of the things that Thom talked about was the fact is there's a lot of different potential scenarios going forward, right? And then I've actually replicated one of his charts down below that you can take a look at. And basically, he said that there are basically 5 different scenarios. There's a V-shaped recovery, in which case we come out of it pretty quickly. Its best case maybe takes 1 to 3 months. It could be a U-shaped recovery, which would take a little bit longer, 3 to 9 months. Wouldn't be that bad, but it would take a little bit longer than the V-shaped recovery. There could be a swoosh-shaped recovery, which is sort of a delayed rebound, takes anywhere from 9 to 24 months, requires even more adaptation by retailers and suppliers for that matter. Could be a W-shaped recovery where we're up and down and up and down and up and down. That's going to depend possibly on whether or not there are resurgences of the virus. That might take anywhere from 3 to 18 months. And then there's the worst case scenario, which is an L-shaped recovery, in which case we're going through this for another 2 to 5 years. It's extremely slow. And one of the things that Thom was talking about was the fact that this, which recovery we go through will basically determine the level of which there needs to be operational and organizational restructuring by companies. And I think that's totally true. But it seems to me the one thing that retailers and suppliers, for that matter, have to do, regardless of which way this is going to go, is they have to figure out what their vision is for the future, right? It doesn't matter whether we're going through a V-shaped, an L-shaped, W-shaped, whatever it happens to be. It seems to me one of the things that you have to do is start thinking about what your vision is for the future. You have to start, you have to prepare for all eventualities, but you have to determine what your future is, and you're just going to have more or less time to figure out how to implement it. But vision is incredibly important. I've been arguing from the beginning is that retailers and suppliers need to figure out what they want to look like as a company at the end of this thing and develop teams whose job is to figure out what that is and then figure out how to implement it. The one thing you can't do is be sitting around and say, well, we'll figure that out at the other end. That's not really possible. And it's actually made even more complicated by the fact that we're probably going to slide right from pandemic into a recession. And that's going to make things last a little bit longer, and who knows how much and to what degree it's going to slap the industry upside the head. One of the things that Robert B. Parker used to quote General Karl von Clausewitz in On War as saying is that you've got to prepare for what the enemy can do, not what you think the enemy will do. So in essence, what that means is businesses have to prepare for all 5 eventualities. You can take your guesses, you can figure out where do I think it's going to be, and the panels that I moderated on Wednesday, they were all over the map in terms of A, what they thought was going to happen, and B, how confident they were in their predictions, because obviously none of us know. But at this time, it seems to me it's important to figure out what your vision is, how you want to look at the end of it, figure out how you're going to get there, and prepare for all eventualities. Because if you don't do that, you wait, okay? You play the waiting game. Well, somebody else, probably your competition, is going to be faster, is going to be smarter, and is going to end up being where they need to be and where you ought to be, and you can't let that happen. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning, and as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.